Hey everyone, welcome to Social Media Hangout Time. I'm here today with Kimmy, our social media puppet.
Hi everybody!
And we have a special guest today, Nick Rosner, and he's actually from Minneapolis, but we're not together, but we are from the same area. So welcome, Nick.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I want to talk a little bit about what Nick's background is, and then we'll start asking questions to him. Nick is the owner of Technic Creative, like the name, a web marketing company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as we talked about. At night, he dreams about social media, web design, blog strategy, and other ways to help small and medium companies grow using the web. Nick is a speaker and instructor on social media strategy, teaching a course on the topic at Century College, Argosy University, and North Hennepin Community College. So you can also connect with Nick, and we will talk about this again at the end, at Nick Rosner, R-O-S-E-N-E-R, and that's his Twitter username. So welcome. Thank you, Nick, so much for coming.
Thanks.
I'm going to actually send it to, because Kimmy always has a question first. So
of course I do. Thanks, Janet. I don't have to hog the show, you know. And I have a really serious question for you, Nick. Have you ever been interviewed by a puppet?
You know, I've never been interviewed by a puppet before, but we do at Technic have a fish that is our social media intern, and he's pretty snarky. He has a Twitter account of his own. His name's Frank.
Oh, and I think I saw a live stream on your website with that fish.
That's Frank the Fintern. He's got his own webcam, and yeah, so, but other than that, no puppets.
Oh, that's fun.
What's his username so that people can follow him too?
He's on Twitter at FinternFrank.
Okay, cool. All right, Kimmy, you'll have to follow him. Kimmy has her own Twitter account now too, so.
Give me the puppet. Give me the social media puppet.
Puppet, yep. So cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started with you wrote a book recently.
Yes.
Yay,
yes, I did.
That takes some work. Believe me, I have heard, and it's something that we've thought about, but it hasn't happened yet ourselves. So congratulations on that.
Kimmy, can you type? I mean,
yes, yeah.
Are you kidding me? You should see. I could text with one hand under my, what do you call those, hairdresser shirts. I could do it blindfolded. Yeah, thanks.
That's good. Yep. But yeah, it took quite a while. You know, my co-author and I, Eric Lehner, are good friends. He's another marketer, and it took us about 2 years to get this book written. We met at Common Roots Cafe in Uptown in Minneapolis every Saturday for about 2 years. You know, it's a lot easier to write a book when you bribe yourself with really great breakfast. But yeah, and it was finally just launched a few weeks ago.
Wow! Wow! Well,
Congratulations.
And the book is called Shout in the Right Direction. So how did you decide that name?
Yes. So Eric and I really wanted to come up with a topic that would resonate with the small business owners we were working with. And when we were thinking about one of the biggest challenges in marketing, what we settled on was that entrepreneurs and small businesses need help getting buzz, generating buzz, and that's the shouting piece. And they like to use these social media tools to get their word out about their brand. But it's not enough just to shout. You have to make sure that you're talking to the right people. Because I've seen a lot of really, really brilliant entrepreneurs who are marketing to people who cannot or will not ever buy from them. And that's really the genesis of what Shout in the Right Direction is all about.
That's such a true statement. And, you know, how do you figure out what your right customer is? Do you have any advice on that one?
There's a framework we talk about in the book, and this is called segment, target, position strategy. Sounds super serious, I know, but the biggest thing with it is that when you do this process of grouping your people by group, so that you can group them into segments that are similar. You choose which segments go best with your message and which are the best clients, and then you position your marketing and your message to be able to hit them. Just the act of writing those segments down can give you a huge impact in knowing who you're selling to, but more importantly, who you're not selling to.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what would you say the biggest challenge is right now in the world of marketing today?
One of the biggest challenges in the world of marketing, I would say, is trying to figure out who those segments are. A lot of times entrepreneurs will have one of two problems when they're doing their segmenting. They will, on one side of the show, they'll have too few segments, and they'll just group people into this gray, amorphous blob of this customer segment. And when you do that, have you guys ever known anybody who does that, who they just have
Yes.
this gray amorphous blob?
Yep.
It's hard to market to a blob.
You're right, because it's hard to have that carry on a conversation because it's all over the place.
Exactly, exactly. Then you have people who have the opposite problem, and these are the people who have way too many segments. I like to call these these are the shiny object syndrome entrepreneurs, where they say, "Ooh, my product is great for this market, and my product is great for this market, and you know, this product would really work with this market." And before you know it, they've got 15 different segments that they're shooting for, and they probably even have 3 different types of products. So that means they have 45 different marketing plans that they have to do. And for a one-person business, that's just not feasible.
That makes me really tired.
It does.
I mean, all I can handle is hair and nails in my salon. I don't want to do anything else.
Exactly, exactly. But you know, there are some types of salons that want to know what types of people they're getting in. Are these the younger, hip, trendy type crowd? Are these the more middle-aged, maintenance, and they've already kind of developed their beauty habits kind of crowd? Is this the older type of crowd? Understanding where those are for your salon, Kimmy, I think would really help.
Well, being that I have pink hair, what do you think? No, I have to speak to my audience. I'm kind of hanging out with the hip crowd.
Definitely the trendy ones. So you might, when you're trying to market to them, you might want to figure out, are they on the newer platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, or are they on the older platforms more like Twitter and Facebook?
Definitely Instagram, and then also Facebook is a hot one for my kids. They love to sit in their chair, take selfies of their tinfoil hair, and share it with their friends.
Yes, yes. It seems like you got this on lock, Kimmy. You don't need my help.
Well, it's always nice. I get good ideas from everybody that comes on the show. So let me ask you.
The question I was going to ask, how do you choose? So is that kind of how you're choosing how you'd suggest to choose which platform to start with, and how many should the people start with? I mean, I get to ask that question a lot. So what would you say, Nick, on that?
You know, I like to think about social media as though every social network is like its own country. And it really kind of is. Because if you think about it, each social network has a different population of people. Some of them have more people, some of them have less, some of them have different types of people that are on there. Each social network might have a different language that they use. I know some people who are going onto Twitter for the first time, they're a bit taken aback by the language of retweets, follow Fridays, all these types of things that you have to learn. And it's really like a different language, like in a different country.
It's totally a different language.
And they have a different shared history, too. I mean, you take a look at how Twitter's role in starting revolutions in the Middle East versus Pinterest's role in revolutionizing how Home and Garden Channel does a lot of their DIY projects. So really thinking about how not only is each social network where your different customers might be, but your brand might work better on some than on others. So you want to think about that question like not where should I be on social media, but almost the same question as where should I live in the world? And that has a lot to do, just as much to do with you as it does your customers.
I like that analogy. Very good. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because it sounds like to me what you're talking about is it's more about what your customer is comfortable with.
Yes.
What they're using. You need to look at. So Kimmy was saying their for hers. They're a lot on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
So, and I know for Twitter, like you said, that's a foreign language for some people. I mean, many people still can't even handle hashtags, you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely grown, but I still think for a lot of people they're not there. So I think I completely agree with you on that piece.
For example, I have another client who runs a salon, another salon here in Minnesota, and when we first started working together, I found out that she had a salon and she had probably 13 chairs and they were all full. So pretty big salon, especially for the city she was in. And she was running all the social media herself, the owner. Which a lot of business owners find themselves in, but she was running it all herself. And she was not only doing it all herself, but she was on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest, blog, and an email newsletter. And she was kind of going nuts.
That's crazy. She have full-time jobs. She doesn't have time to cut hair.
And she still cut hair 2 days a week.
That's amazing.
So it was right, and it was a bit insane. She was kind of having trouble with it. She was keeping up with it, but really none of it was being very effective because she was spreading herself too thin. So 2 pieces to this. One, we looked at the metrics and we looked at some of the criteria for what success would look like, and things like which networks were getting the best engagement, were people driving traffic to the website, were people in the salon in the chair using it and talking about it, did they mention to the stylists that they were using that type of social media? And one thing we found was that probably half of them, after her doing them for several months, weren't producing barely at all. The second thing is that they were platforms that neither of us would have ever guessed were the ones that were underperforming until we looked. We ended up cutting the email newsletter. We ended up cutting the blog. The blog, she was doing these fantastic articles about do-it-yourself beauty tips and all these, they were really great. But not only were the blog articles not getting any traffic of their own, but they were, when she shared those on social media, those were the lowest engagement posts out of anything. So as much as I love blogging, and for most businesses that's the answer to search engine optimization, it really wasn't cutting it for the salon. So we cut that. We cut the email newsletter. We ended up cutting Twitter, which I thought would have been really fantastic. But the ones that were performing were Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. And when the numbers tell you, you don't fight them.
Huh. Like it. I like it. That's something to look at, because there's a lot of businesses that are out there right now that are doing exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah.
And they're just existing on, probably more than half. What I've noticed a lot of is the business owners focusing typically on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then the other pieces kind of exist. You know, and granted, there's a little bit of mix and match. So if they've been doing that, what you just stated is what they should look at, and just kind of narrow down those numbers and break it down a little more and maybe drop a couple things, correct?
There's an exercise that I often will help people with that's related to this, and it's called the imaginary salesperson exercise. And I'll ask a client, imagine that you're going to hire your first real full-time salesperson today, and ask them, what would you have them sell? And whatever first comes to mind of what you would have them sell, that is what you should spend most time promoting, because that is where you should put all of your resources in what's obviously the juiciest thing for the company. But we as entrepreneurs and small business owners don't always remember that, because we don't have to pay ourselves, that we feel like we can spend time on things that aren't always the absolute best use of our time. Whereas if we were paying somebody a salary to go out and sell, it'd be no question. We'd have them only on the very best things. The same thing has to go with social media.
That's true. And she can use a lot of that content from her blogs and put that out in different aspects too. So at least it's not a wasted effort, and she can just maximize her use of her time. But can I ask, what kinds of systems would you recommend they use to help keep track of what they do every day? Do you use any certain systems?
So lots of people have different ways they look at things, and for me in particular, I don't always, I'm not always very dictatorial about this is how you should do it, this is the way that I do it, because there's lots of different right ways to do social media. And especially the content of the book, for example, is more about the highest levels of strategy so that you can align your efforts all the way down the line. But for me, I'm a big fan of Hootsuite. Hootsuite's a social media management tool I'm sure a lot of you have heard of.
Yep, I use it.
Yeah, I mean, how does it work for your salon?
It works great because I love to watch it. I can monitor all my mentions. That's what I use it for.
Bingo. Bingo.
All on one screen, and I can see who's talking about me.
My staff and I really like it because whenever we put out a campaign, we can schedule most of the messages around the campaign all at once. And that helps a lot with efficiency and making sure that we have a consistent, coordinated effort to get out the word about a campaign when we're putting out something.
That's great.
Hootsuite's my favorite too, so we kind of all agree on that one. And you know, they've perfected it. They have a good system there, so you can't go wrong with it. Now there are others, obviously, but I know Hootsuite's a favorite of all of ours, so that's great. Now, what about, so with all those things to do, that helps keep you organized. What other suggestions would you say keep everything organized and aligned with the business goals?
One of the biggest things that I'll recommend for people is to have everything come back to the marketing segments. Because when you decide, you can think about, what should I post today on Facebook? And that might roll up to, well, what's on my editorial calendar? What have I decided that I'm going to schedule? What is my post schedule like? And then you might think, how do I decide what's on my editorial calendar? That can go up another level to the level of the segments. You decide what's on your editorial calendar based on what you're trying to promote to whom at any particular time. And then one more level up, it goes to, why do I choose these segments? That's just about, why are you in business? What is your core purpose for being in business? And once you can answer that question, everything just kind of cascades down from that, and the questions are answered.
Well, Kimmy, answer that question.
Why are you in business?
Why am I in business?
Yes.
Because I absolutely love to serve people and help them make and look, feel, and pretty, so that they feel good.
But in the end,
and to make money.
Really in business.
I have to make money, of course, but money is everything. No, money, cash is king. You know.
Exactly. So, yeah. But I agree with what he's saying. It's something about, you've got to look at that, start there, and then narrow it down. And you're right about the editorial calendar. I love that idea of the editorial calendar, but you're going even deeper than that.
Yeah. A lot of times what we'll do is, there's this idea that editorial calendar has been out in the social media world for quite some time. And I would imagine even you guys have discussed it on the show sometimes as well. What I want to advocate in the book, for example, is not just an editorial calendar, but also a campaign calendar.
Campaigns. I like that word, campaign.
Because, yeah, go ahead, Kimmy.
That way it allows you to kind of tweak and adjust, and you're not just stuck to having a certain thing on Monday and something on Tuesday, but you can move your campaigns around to speak to your audience.
Yeah, and I like to go even further with it, too, where we think about strategic planning at 3 major levels, and one of which is the business plan level. That's the highest level, the 3 to 5 year plan. And we all know that 3 to 5 year plans are becoming harder and harder to realize. By the time that comes, the world has changed so much. But at least having some basic idea of what you're going to, so that anything you do in any 6-month period or 1 year period doesn't get you off track for what your 3 to 5 year plan is.
Yeah.
You can zoom down to the level of 6 months or 1 year plan, and this is what we often think about as the marketing plan. Coordinating what you're planning on doing for the next 6 months, what are the highest levels of where you want your business to be 6 months later, and that just helps you make sure that 6 months don't go by and you haven't gotten to where you are because you've been caught so much up into the month to month. But then when you get down into the month to month, that's where a lot of the magic happens. That's where I like to think of as a campaign. a month-long or a quarter-long effort to do one specific thing. And a lot of times that's saying, for me, for example, one of the recent campaigns I did was I wanted to do a concerted effort for 1 month to connect with and build my audience in professional speakers in the Twin Cities who I think could be a good fit for website and marketing support with Technic. And that's a 1 month effort that we were able to do in order to generate some business pretty quickly in that arena.
That's great.
Like it, like it. Yes, and I've seen it broke down to the quarterly piece. I know Amy Porterfield, when we listen, she does a quarterly segments, and so there's different people, but I love, you kind of look out, but I love what you said, because it's really hard to do the few years ahead nowadays, because you don't, I mean, we don't know what the next social media site that's going to pop up is going to be, so it's pretty hard to go that far out, but monthly and quarterly, and I think we can wrap our heads around that a little better too.
And luckily for Kimmy, everybody's still going to have hair in 3 years.
Well, most people will.
Well, Nick's got a good head of hair, so at least
that's right.
You could use a little pink stripe in there, you know.
You know, I think that would be good. You know that there's a woman on Twitter, Sandy Kukowski, who's got her famous pink swipe. I'd never want to steal her brand, but you know, maybe I could go blue or purple or something.
That's funny. Orange, it'll match your book.
That's right. That's right.
Hey,
I can see it.
Well, now, one of the questions off of this that I'd like to ask you also, because we're talking about, you know, not just randomly posting, actually having a campaign, actually organizing this campaign, narrowing down the time. I like how this has gotten into the details of it. Yeah. And so we're really narrowing this campaign down to a very specific goal. And then once you've done that, then how do you measure it? Let's talk a little bit about the measurement, because I know that's such a big topic nowadays.
First and foremost, there's lots of people who have lots of different opinions about measuring things, but I always like to start, as always, as a strategist at the very top, and we look at the core business goals, and even more importantly, the money that's coming in, because my favorite social media metric is the profit and loss statement. A lot of people will think will have this disconnect between their core business strategy and then social is just this tactic they add on after. And really they should be integrated, because social is nothing without a core business strategy, and core business strategy nowadays is most of the time not very effective without social. Absolutely. So that is the first piece at looking at it, is that you want to set up the metrics that make sense to you for your business goals, because you can't measure everything. You go insane just looking at all the numbers and being swayed to one side to another just by what the numbers change day by day. But always stay focused on what is it that's important for my business in these 30 days, and did I hit it? So that's number one. The second thing is really to look at the difference between some metrics that you have more control over, things like how many likes you get and how much engagement you get on a post, which are things like activity-based metrics. These are easier to control, but they're further away from the final goal. But also looking at the results metrics, traffic to the website, conversions to your email list, and sales. Those things are harder to control, but they're closer to your business goals.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Like it. Like it. Love it. Wow. Well, we've narrowed this down to, I think people understand now how to narrow this down. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about your book. Can you kind of go a little more into detail before we finish up about what is, kind of break it down a little bit of what is in the book, or something specific that you want to tell us about that's in the book that really stands out to you?
This is from so Shout in the Right Direction, this is what it looks like, is what came out of doing strategic marketing consults with clients for years. So this is what we do at Technic with clients when we want to figure out what their marketing strategy should be. So Shout in the Right Direction goes through 3 major areas, and the first is the planning stage. We talk about how to choose your segments, how to make a plan that's effective but still flexible, and that you as a business owner, yeah, I know you, will actually want to do. because I know you, and I know you hate planning, but the plan we talk about in Shout in the Right Direction is one that even if you hate planning, it's worth it enough to kind of grin and bear it to get this plan down because it will really help your business.
Nice.
Second piece is all about the tools. Now, it wouldn't be a social media book without talking about each of the networks in depth. We go over all the biggies and some of the newer ones and talking about some of Eric and my observations of how to position each social network, what they might be good for, what they might be bad for, what to watch out for, and some insights like that. And go ahead.
Nope, you have another one? Go ahead.
Yeah, and the last part of the book is called Creative. That is where, now that you've got your plan, now that you've chosen the tools you're going to use, you have to figure out what exactly you're going to say to your target audience. So we've come up with several chapters on this idea of creativity in the social space and how to be creative and how to create compelling messages that get people on board with your brand.
Nice. Sounds like it has a lot of material in there. Well, 2 years worth, obviously.
That's right. That's right. We don't hold back with this one.
That's great. I love it. Now let's finish up with handing. We always want to hand our audience a to-do list, but a real simple to-do list, something that they can take action on in the next 24 hours. So, what would you say?
Here's what I want to challenge you to do if you're listening. Make a campaign for 1 month in the next day. What you got to do is just choose one thing, one basic thing about your business that you want to do in the next month, and write down a SMART goal, which is a goal that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And then write down your action plan. It's a one-pager, maybe a couple words. Says, I want to do this by this date and this much, and then write down your action plan of maybe 10 steps that are going to help you get it. If you do that in the next day and implement it in the next month, you will have some serious return on whatever you set your mind to.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And
so, Nick,
go ahead, Kimmy. I'll let her finish it up.
Yeah. Where can people find you and your book? Are you on Amazon?
Yes. So Shout in the Right Direction is available for sale in paperback like this on Amazon, and it's also available on Kindle as well. If you have any questions for me or have any questions for my co-author Eric, you can just tweet at us with the hashtag #ShoutBook, and we'll be monitoring that hashtag, and we'll answer any questions about the show that you have.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on our show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks you
very much. Thanks, Nick.